I'm Marcus Ericsson, and this is The Skinny.
I'm Felix Rosenqvist, and this is The Skinny.
From Fathead Studios in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Welcome, everybody, to Speedway, Indiana. It's brisk outside, a little bit of snow flurry, but it's hot in here. We've got another great show coming your way. Rico, Ken Stout with you, and two of Ganassi's young guns in the house with us, Felix Rosenqvist and Marcus Ericsson. Welcome, guys. You know, for 2 months we tried to get Scott Dixon, and all we ended up with was you guys.
The better part of Ganassi.
First of all, I'm really happy that you call us the young guns, or I don't feel like we're that young anymore, but that's good. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's keep that.
You're not as old as Dixon, so that's
this
really
is very
at
true.
with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
and we did get Scott in here, and he said you got to get the Swedes in here, so we got the Swedes in.
Yeah. That's good. It's like I said, it's all going to be in Swedish, right? We're just going to answer every question in Swedish from now on.
I tried to read one of your Facebook posts, and it had a bunch of little squiggly lines over the letters. I'm like, I'm out.
You have to hit the translation button. And yes, this whole podcast this whole show will be in subtitles. You'll want to understand what Ken and I are talking about. We'll try and understand what you guys are talking about. So.
It is great to have both you guys in here. Thanks for taking the time. And we're not too far away from the first race of the year, so you got to be getting up on the wheel. You got to be excited. Super
excited. I think the off season has been very long, a lot longer than I'm used to. Previously, before IndyCar, I was always like racing up until end of November, pretty much, and then you had like a month or two with off season, and then you're at it again. And now this year feels like it's been forever since we were in Laguna for the last race. So it makes at least me super eager to get started now, and I've used this time to really prepare myself and make sure that I'm ready for the season.
And not much seat time. We were talking with Dixon, and he said he's only been in the car for about a day and a half.
Yeah, that's been weird. It's almost a mixed feeling of feeling like a rookie again and feeling more prepared than ever because, it's every season is the biggest season of your career, right? And, we always try to train harder and prepare harder and, look at onboards and watch the races and all that stuff. But it's, if you're not in the car, it's pretty hard to practice. So, it's been a kind of weird off-season.
Yeah, and a number of changes, too, with that windscreen coming in. So things will be a little bit different.
Yeah, I believe so. It's gonna reset a bit the way you have to run the car. I believe. We're gonna have to see and sort of learn as the year goes on, I guess, because like we talked about, we've had like 1.5 day of testing so far because half of it, rained off in Coda. So I think we're still learning about the effects of this windscreen or air screen. The challenge obviously being that it's placed quite high on the car and it weighs quite a lot, so it's gonna change some stuff. Already in testing we felt some differences in the way the car behaves, so let's see throughout the season what it does, but it's something that everyone has to cope with now.
Marcus, you've been in the Formula One cars after they changed theirs. What is it in comparison? At least vision-wise, is there a comparison to that in the new windscreen with the IndyCar?
Yeah, so like I said, the Halo came into F1 a few years back now, and I drove with that, and it was, it was, always when there's a big change like that, it's a lot of discussions, but as soon as they put the Halo on, from a driver's perspective, it was not a big difference. You got used to it very quickly, and I think the aero screen is another step, so it's basically a Halo with a screen, so it's even better safety-wise, and I think IndyCar has done a tremendous job to implement this on the cars and really help the driver safety to take another step in, they're leading the way in the world now. So from a driver point, I think Felix can agree as well that after a couple laps you are completely used to it and it doesn't affect you when you're driving, but it does create a bit of a different feeling. You're definitely feeling a bit more in a cockpit when you sit there compared to last year when it was everything open. You obviously don't feel the air flowing at your helmet whilst driving, so it does create a bit of a different feeling, but I haven't had any problems the days we've been testing. I just think it's a great thing for the safety and a great thing for IndyCar.
So we'd be remiss if we didn't congratulate Felix on his efforts from 2019 on the strength of a really strong run there at Monterey from 14th after a spin in qualifying, but 14th up into the top 5. You secured Rookie of the Year honors for 2019 in IndyCar. Really an outstanding season, man. You got to be excited about this year.
Yeah, thank you. It was it was a really, it's hard to describe, up and down season. It started off really good, and then I kind of had a low point in the middle, and then it ended off really well. So it makes us excited to go into this season when we can look back at Monterey. I mean, even if it feels like it was ages ago now, but I mean that makes the guys really excited for this year, and makes it better to have such a long off season when you're ending on a high. I mean, it was a P5, but as you said, I had a spin in qualifying there, had to come from the back, and it was a really good race, and I think everyone was surprised that the racing was so good there in Monterey. We kind of predicted that it would be no overtaking, but it was actually a really good race. So yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, it's a tough racetrack. I agree, and there is only a couple of passing zones there. We run there in sports cars, so very familiar with it. But you can get it done. It's just kind of tight, but it definitely takes some thought process and a setup process, and it's not an easy pass.
No, I mean, I don't know how many passes I had, probably around 10, but some of them were into the corkscrew, and that seems actually to be
That is a sketcy place for sure, yeah, to catch a guy.
But it works, and that's what's cool with IndyCar. If you compare to other Formula categories where we have big Formula cars, it's really tricky to pass anywhere, but in IndyCar, it seems like you can get through on street tracks, on ovals, in the corkscrew. There's no limit for the amount of overtaking you can do, and I think that's been a really good thing IndyCar has done with the new Aero kit.
You had a great run at Mid-Ohio as well, and Scott Dixon, by the way, is really glad that you didn't take advantage of that opportunity at the end of the race. But but I've got to go back to 2016, where you tested with Ganassi at Mid-O and had a really good run there. Is that what opened up the door for you to come to Ganassi?
Yeah, it was. I think having done that test, and later on, 2-3 years later, when they were looking for a new driver, that I was on that list, and that's the things that can make a difference. And I think the whole ladder system here in the US works pretty well with that, because if you can only get a chance to do a test, you're immediately in the list, and that makes a huge difference. While in Europe, I had a hard time to going up the ladder because you can never really get the chance. It seems like always the young guns from Indy Lights and so on gets a chance here, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, both of you guys kind of followed the relatively close path to each other, coming out of Sweden and chasing that stuff through Europe. And I know you spent a lot of time in Asia as well.
Yeah, I mean, I did. We did karting back home in Europe, and then I did some racing in the UK, and then went to Japan for a year and raced there in the F3 of Japan, and then back to Europe and did the sort of F1 ladder there with GP2 and then Formula 1. So been through quite a few different categories, but I really feel at home now in IndyCar, and super happy to be here.
And both of you having success at Macau. Pretty cool. I mean, I think you qualified. Both of you qualified on pole. You won from the pole a couple times.
2 times.
2 times, yeah. And you qualified on the pole and finished top 5. I want to say.
Yeah, exactly. I was on pole, but finished 4th in the end. So.
Talk to me about that racetrack. I mean, it just looks wicked.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the world for sure, and especially for the F3 cars. I think they're perfect for that track, and it's just it's a great event and a great track, and definitely one of the best in the world. The challenge there. It's very, very tough, but it's so much fun when you sort of get the rhythm and get everything right. Yeah,
and Felix, they call you the most successful Formula 3 racer of all time. I mean, in 2015, incredible effort. 17 poles, 13 wins, 24 podiums. I mean, holy smokes, dude.
Oh, I miss those kind of numbers. I mean, I was there for a long time, so that definitely helped, But, Formula 3 has a big place in my heart. That's where I spent most of my career till now. So hopefully that will change soon with IndyCar. But F3 is a great car. It's like one of those underpowered cars that you need to really nail your driving to get the right kind of speed through the corner and exit of the corner. and it definitely helped me becoming the driver I am today. So yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Marcus, also your fair amount of success there too. 2007 BMW UK champ, and then 2009 in Formula 3, right, in Japan.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it's been a while now. It makes me feel old when we talk about the years, but yeah, no, I agree with Felix. F3 was one of the most fun cars and categories to race in, and I think you, as a driver, you learn a lot from a category like that you will have with you all your career.
It seemed as though that was the path for many years, was to get started here, go spend a few years in Europe, and then see what happens. And maybe a door opens for F1 or come back over here to IndyCar. And then it seemed like the tables turned. I was hearing that the people in Europe wanted to get over here to the States. Yeah,
it seems like it's more people, for sure the last couple of years, seems like more people are starting in Europe to look at American racing. And like Felix was saying a bit, the ladder system here seems to be working a bit better than in Europe at the moment. So I like to think there will be more European drivers coming over to America and trying it out here the next couple of years, because I think IndyCar is in great shape at the moment. The grid is growing, and like we said, I'm sure they're trying to get the Indy Lights to be a bit bigger field as well, because that would help. But the categories below Indy Lights seem to be very healthy and good numbers. So I definitely feel like there is a lot more attention to American racing and IndyCar and Indy Ladder from Europe than it was 5-10 years ago.
All right, so we got to ask them. The F1 show on Netflix. Connor said that there couldn't be an IndyCar show. We disagree.
He was a big part of it, by the way.
Yeah, season 1, I was there for quite a bit in at least one episode, and even this year they keep showing my crash from 18 on it. So,
thanks.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's great. I think, or I know it created a lot of new fans for F1 when they did that, and last year, beginning of last year when they released it, I think it was beginning of last year, they released the season 1, and it was so much people coming up to me, talking to me because they'd seen me on Netflix, not because I was Formula 1 or IndyCar driver, but it was because they'd seen me on Netflix. So it's like, and it was a lot of people writing to me, and I could see also on my social media the followers went really like high after the Netflix was released. So it definitely had a big impact, and I know it created a lot of new fans because it's such a big platform, and I think people that's what I like with it is they go behind the scenes, they go and like get to know the drivers, get to know what goes into it. It's not only driving a race car on Sunday afternoons. It's so much more that you don't really see, and I think that's why it got a lot of people hooked on it. So yeah, I would love to try and do something similar here in America for IndyCar. I don't know why Connor doesn't think it's going to work. But
right, I think it'd be great. I mean, NBC would be the natural fit, with the gold package or whatever, which Connor doesn't have, so forget it. That's probably why he didn't think it'll work. But anyhow, I think it would be a natural fit. And, that was one of the things that, we were just talking about the last show, Dale Jr. has an amazing show with everybody from NASCAR, from the roots of NASCAR on it, and current and past, and and that's kind of where we're at with IndyCar. I mean, that's our deal. This is where we're at. We have a suite out at the track, have for many years, and it was interesting when Roger bought everything up. It was kind of a mixed feeling, because I mean, I know what he does with dealerships, which is amazing. I mean, I know him as a business person just because I used to be in the auto industry, so I know a lot about how all that, how he would operate that stuff. But I'm telling you, I had the pleasure of meeting his son, Greg, down at Daytona at the 500. And I'm telling you, man, we're in good hands. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I think what you're talking about with a lot more people coming in, whether it's here from abroad, I think it's going to be pretty amazing. I think we're going to have a lot of cars out there like we used to, and that's the exciting part. And younger guns. Maybe there'll be younger guns than you guys, but that's when you're as old as Ken and I, there's a lot of young people.
Yeah,
well,
and
Carl too. We're younger than Carl, so we feel better about that. But anyhow,
that's why we keep Carl around.
Yeah, he just stands back there. He's really not doing anything. So.
You know, speaking of team chemistry, as you talked about the three of you drivers getting along really well, you've got to take a look at what Chip has done over the past 30 years. I mean, it's 19 championships overall, an amazing amount of victories, and all the big wins that he has along the way. But I would even take it a step further, because you worked with Dario Franchitti, I think, all year long, if I'm not mistaken. So he's part of this mix, and that chemistry. I know he and Dixon are good friends, so I've got to think he falls right into the group. But to have that mix of four now talented drivers on a team that's enjoyed so much success has to be the magic that you need to go forward.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes it fun to do your job when you're working closely with good people. I mean, Dario was huge for me last year, my rookie year, especially on the ovals. Everything that he contributed with was I don't know who else could have done it, and also I really like him as a guy as well. He's super funny dude to hang around with, and personally I need that in a team. I need it to be relaxed, and you have to be able to joke and have dinner or whatever. It needs to be it can't feel too much like work, because that's not why we started. When you were young, you want to be a racing driver, you want to have fun, and you want to be fast, and you don't want every day to feel like you're in an office doing checklists and
I get that,
speaking
I get
engineer
that part.
language. So I think we have a good mix there. It's a good balance for sure.
You've got to be excited as well. I mean, talk to me about what happened there. How'd the deal come about? Obviously, a year ago you ran pretty much the entire season. I think Portland you went back. Alfa Romeo had you as a standby driver, but pretty much ran the entire season. But now put together a package, and you're over here with Chip.
Yeah, so I think the plan for me was to stay with the SPM guys, but then obviously there was a lot of things happening last year with McLaren coming into the team as a primary sponsor, and everything that changed around mid-year or mid-season last year, and when all that was happening, we didn't get a clear sort of you're out sign, but you sort of sense what's going on, and you could tell that they wanted to make like a fresh start, with all that was happening in the team. And then I felt like, I really enjoyed IndyCar and really wanted to stay. So, my management started to look at the different opportunities, and I think at the same time, Chip and the guys in Ganassi Racing was looking at how to strengthen the team going forward. And from what I understood, they felt like adding a third car would help them become even stronger and take the fight to the likes of Penske and Andretti. So I think it was a lot of different different things that was playing in for me to get the opportunity, and then it all sort of fell into place, and I got the opportunity, which is it's a dream opportunity for me, to sign with a team like Chip Ganassi Racing, and it's one of the best in the business, and I'm super proud and happy about that, and excited to show what I can do in a team like that. So yeah, it's gonna be a great year.
So working with Chip, what do you think? This is great because Scott, we did the same thing to Scott.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just starting to know Chip, so I've only met him a few times, and spoke to him on the phone a few times. So so far it's been all good, but maybe Felix has more on this. But yeah, so far
Felix?
It's been all good.
Well, I think Chip is he always gives everyone what they need to deliver. I mean, if there's anything the engineers are asking for, the driver or the mechanics, he will always give them the best stuff. And that's all you can ask for, really. And then, he gets mad if you crash or something, he will get mad.
He makes sure you're okay, and then he starts
exactly,
in on you.
I mean, he's also the first guy to show up at the medical center, to see that you're okay. And you can understand, I wouldn't want to be a team owner. I mean,
No.
I don't know how people can do that, but there's a few people that do it, and Chip is one of those, great leaders that's been successful. So, I mean, if he gets a bit angry, I think that's, the least of worries.
Chip has been way, way successful. We were talking about his all of his accolades and everything that he's done. It's pretty amazing stuff. So
Nothing short of exceptional. Both of you rookies last year. So one at a time. Which race surprised you the most?
I think for me it was still the 500, because coming from 5 years of Formula One, I've done the Monaco Grand Prix, I've done the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, I've done a lot of the big races, over in Europe and the rest of the world. And a lot of people were telling me when I was coming to America, when I signed for IndyCar, that, you know, how special the 500 was and how different it was from anything else. And I didn't really believe it. You know, I thought, okay, it's a big race, but it's, you know, I've done Monaco, I've done Monza. It's not going to be anything different. You know? It was sort of what I thought, but I actually got surprised how much it did, you know, how unique it was and how special it was. And I think the whole month, the way the build-up is throughout the month, you know, qualifying weekend, and then you have carb day, and, you know, it's so much going on. It's so much history. It's so much, you know, you can tell how much it means to everyone that's working there, that's coming there as fans, as the city, and how much it means for everyone. And he just made it very, very special, and it's sort of like I could feel it myself as well in a strange way. And it was very, very special race day, you know, with all the fans there. To everywhere you looked, it was just
a sea of people.
Yeah, a sea of people.
I kid you not, goosebumps here.
Right.
I mean, literally,
Yeah.
you talking about it because I spot
crazy,
up in turn one, and you stand up there, and it's just awe-inspiring. You just can't even put it in words. It's unbelievable, the feeling you get. I mean, you're just overwhelmed with it.
And I think you have to experience it until you understand it, you know, because that was the thing for me. Like, I couldn't believe it was what it was, and then I was there, and, you know, I did the month and did the race, and it was just unbelievable. So for me, I can't wait to get back there and give it another go in May. And, you know, I think that's for me it was something very, very special.
So Scott talked about coming out of 4, going down the front straightaway. He said it's like driving down an alley. He goes, it feels so narrow because you just have a sea of people on both sides. I mean, there's really no, you know, nothing else there. So, I mean, the feeling of that, is anything ever like that coming down through there?
No, I don't think so. I think it's, during the race, it was just, it was spectacular. And the same thing, like, I think something that also adds to it is obviously the speeds we're doing and everything. You know, you have such an adrenaline going when you're out there on track and side by side with cars. And it's just, I don't think there's anything like it in the motorsport world.
And hopefully you get to do a little people watching.
After the checkered, maybe.
Well, when on one of the off days, we'll dress you up in something where nobody knows who you are, and we'll take you out and let you see some real stuff in the infield.
Sounds
We
good.
went to the state fair. That's
Okay, well, that's a prelude to this. All right, add about too much alcohol to everything you saw there. You're getting close.
What is it like during rookie orientation? And eventually, you know, I'm going to go down into turn 1, and I'm not lifting. I just flat-footing all the way down through there. Well, I mean, how do you get yourself to do that?
Well, I mean, everyone does it, so you kind of have to do it yourself.
Hey, it worked for him. It should work for me, right?
That's the easy motivation for it.
But we got to ask him, what track was it for you?
Yeah, because you had some great success last year, as you talked about, hot and cold a little bit, but you had some good runs, so that's why I left it open. I didn't want to pin it down to the 500.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the 500. I haven't drive it. I haven't done it until last year, but I went there in Indy Lights. But I'd actually say the one after Texas is that surprised me the most, because it was just such a, I don't know, I never had that feeling in a race car. It almost felt like I was in a plane or something.
Right, hammer down.
Yeah, and like when the sun went down and it went black, and it felt like it went twice as fast, because everything is like, you know, those movies when they go into like warp
Hyperspeed,
speed.
right? Exactly.
And I don't know, it was just such an adrenaline rush, and sometimes you're like, when you had a yellow, you were actually thinking about what you were doing, like what are we actually doing here, sitting in these boxes driving 220, and, you know,
And the G loads, right? I mean, just pinned against
and like the steering force and everything. It was just mad. And I remember actually talking to Marcus after the race, and we were both, you know, like, you almost had to take a few minutes and sit on the pit wall and just calm down. And I couldn't sleep that night. I think I fell asleep like 4 a.m. So that was something very different. And Indy didn't have that impact on me. I think there was more everything around, and it's a really cool race. You know, it's a good race, a lot of overtaking, and it's exciting. But Texas was just like pure adrenaline.
Yeah, and a pack. I mean, somebody around you all the time.
Yeah.
We were talking about that with St. Louis too.
Yeah,
St. Louis
the
is
same
a
way.
pretty wild spot. So yeah, it's that's interesting.
I almost spotted for you at the 500.
He didn't know Swedish.
Not for the race. It was one of the practice days. I think maybe it might have been carb day actually.
Oh yeah,
Because your spotter had to take off, or maybe his daughter was graduating
Exactly.
or something. So I was standing right beside him and Robbie Fast, just in case he had to bug out if it ran late. So I was going to be your guy there. So fortunately for you, everything went right.
They seem to have a good
Or you would
voice.
have had that.
You know how to talk.
Yeah, good stuff, man, for sure. It's so cool to see you guys come in and then do as well as you do. Of course, you have a ton of experience here in Formula One. I think it was 2018. You really had a really respectful run over there and scoring points in like 6 races, I believe it was. So a lot of experience coming out of those cars into this. What would you say is the biggest difference?
A lot is different. I think especially the cars these days in Formula One has gone every year. It's gone more and more to higher downforce, whereas IndyCar has gone a bit different direction with the lower downforce aero kits. So that was definitely a big change for me coming here from 5 years in Formula One. Another thing is with the tire warmers that you have in Formula One. Here you don't have it, so the tires are a complete different feel and way of building them up for a qualifying session. And then the power steering is the next big difference, that you don't have a power steering here in IndyCar compared to in Formula One. So it creates a complete different feel to the way when you drive the car. So I think everything was pretty different for me coming here, and all the tracks were new. So it was a big learning curve last year. But I had a lot of fun. I think the main thing with IndyCar, which I love, is that first of all, the competition, everyone is so close together. I think the field is so talented with so many good drivers and cars, and it's all separated by a second usually in qualifying, from the top to bottom. So that's very, very inspiring, because it means you have to get the maximum out of yourself each time to be up front. And then the other thing which I really like with IndyCar is the way you have to be, complete as a driver, because we go to the short ovals, we go to the super speedways, we go to bumpy street tracks, we go to flowy road courses. So you need to be complete as a driver to be successful in this category, and I think that's also a bit unique with IndyCar. So it was a lot of things to learn from me last year, but I had a lot of fun doing it.
As rookies on the team, did they pull any pranks on you?
Not really. They were pretty nice.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll see if we can fix that.
Yeah, Robbie Fast was talking a little bit.
Yeah, you said you guys enjoy the Muppets. Apparently, the Swedish chef there
Swedish
is.
chef.
They did. Actually, they did that. They did a T-shirt with a Swedish chef. Because, do you know Kelby? Our media.
Oh yeah. I just know him through email. Yeah.
Like, he always takes the piss out of Sweden, and he like inspired the team to make a T-shirt with a Swedish chef. And yeah, it's a bit old now, but he likes to go on about it every time I see him. It's like, oh, Swedish chef.
Yeah, they were trying to get us to do it. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I told him we were going to start the show off with it. So you guys will feel comfortable.
Yeah,
now you can gang up on them. There's 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Swedish fish we hear a lot as well. But
That's what Robbie said. He said,
yeah.
get a lot of
there we
Swedish
go.
fish.
Hey,
Yeah.
Ken.
Oh yeah, it was actually that's a bit of a prank. I don't know. Should we call it that?
Yeah.
But we don't even have them in Sweden. That's the thing.
No, I know. I've never tried them until I came here.
They're pretty good though.
Yeah, my girlfriend loves them.
We do this show to try to help people understand who everybody is, right? Because they see you on the track or in the reality TV show, as you said. They see you on the track or they see you in the car. You got a helmet on. It's kind of like football guys. We do a lot of stuff with football people, right? Well, they have a helmet on. You really don't know who they are, but this is a nice way to humanize who it is that's behind that car and what's going on. So, we've had the fortune of knowing a lot of different people in this business or in the racing business period, but it's good to see it, and that was always the thing. It was kind of like what you said, back in the day, it was people that started here. Mario started here and he goes over and he goes over and does the F1 thing and then, comes back, of course, and things like that. So it's interesting. And we, like I said in the beginning, we all need each other, right? All the series need each other to make it successful. And so I'm excited to try to see where this thing will go and grow, you know.
Marcus, I take you back to your early days. You started off in karts, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in that area. What was that like, when running around with mom and dad?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get my dad to buy me a go-kart when I was around 9. I don't come from a motorsport family, so it was never natural for me to start go-karts. It was more by accident that I got into it. Tried some rental karting and thought it was fun, and then convinced my dad to buy me a go-kart, and my dad is a house painter, so he had like a van where we could fit the go-kart in there.
That's good stuff.
So that's what I raced out.
So,
It was a cargo van.
We got the car in the back there in the van, in the painting van, and then went around Sweden doing all these different go-kart races growing up. So that was how it all started. So I have my dad and also my mom of course to thank.
And
without them I wouldn't be here. Obviously.
And Kenny Brack, somewhere along the way, watched you and actually gave you a massive accolade along the way as well. Said you reminded him of Alain Prost, a 4-time F1 champ. That's some pretty big words coming from a legitimate guy.
Yeah. I mean, it was around that time, my late go-kart years, that Kenny sort of came into the picture and started a project and picked me up. So Kenny and a few others started this project and was managing my career for a long time. And Kenny was part of it for a good 5-6 years. Kenny helped me a lot. And really, without Kenny and the other people involved there, I wouldn't be able to take the step to cars from go-karts. That helped a lot. I have a lot to thank Kenny for that. And obviously, growing up, we were also watching, I think both me and Felix was watching Kenny driving here in America, in the States, in IndyCar and kart. He was always on TV back in Sweden, so he was very popular back then.
What was it like for your parents? I mean, like you said, no racing background. You kind of take on this hobby. It's fun to go racing with my son, and it starts to develop, and it turns into this massive monster. What is mom and dad doing? I mean, say year 4 or 5, it's like, I can't believe what's happening here. I mean, what was that feeling like being at home?
Yeah, I think for us and my family, we were only doing it for fun, and we didn't really have big plans with me becoming. You had dreams as a kid. You have dreams. You want to be a Formula 1 driver or IndyCar driver, but the thing was, it was not really realistic for me. So we were just doing it year by year and just having fun and trying to race go-karts basically. And then I was lucky enough to have Kenny there, that he sort of spotted my talent and helped me to find sponsors and everything to take the step to cars. But my mom and dad has always been very good there with when Kenny and this project stepped in. They took a step back and let me sort of live my dream and pursue my dream, and they've always been there supporting me, but not been involved in my career really since I started racing cars when I was like 16. But it's been a long journey, but it's been a
very successful one. How about you, Felix? How things start off?
Well, pretty similar. My family was also not in motorsport at all. We were more into skiing actually, so that's what I started with when I was 2 years old, and I started competing, and then at some point along the road, me and my dad had a big interest in cars in general, not really racing but just cars, and I think those two kind of blended together. And there was another guy who did skiing, who had a go-kart, and I got to try that one, and then the whole thing took off. And I mean, as you say, it something that's supposed to be a fun thing takes off into something else. And I mean, we were not really from a specifically rich family. I think we weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot as well. So my dad, I think he put everything on the line. And at that age, when you're 12 to 15 years old, you can't have the responsibility to think I'm going to be a F1 driver, I'm going to be a football player. I mean, you don't know what's going on with your brain. I mean, you change every day. One day you want to do that, the next day you want to do that. So it's a difficult thing to get into motorsport, because when you make the commitment, you don't know if that's what you want to do when you're 18. But yeah, we went through the same deal. I mean, it's a roller coaster, and it's nothing I would recommend specifically to anyone.
It's interesting. Your path. Who does that sound like?
Well, I mean, sounds like. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, we did it exactly the same thing.
Right.
You know, I mean,
right. But Stuart
and
talking about
Stuart and Connor, and I mean,
well, I know, but Stuart talking about his mom and dad, they got a second mortgage on their house to buy him go-kart stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's exactly what you're talking about. And, you know, in his acceptance speech for the Hall of Fame, you know, one of the things he said, I'm still not sure what they were thinking.
No,
you know,
that's what I'm coming to grips with. Like, what was my dad thinking? Specifically, my dad, also my mom. But it's like, why would you do that?
I can help you with that. I mean, and I seriously can.
Right.
You know, racing with Robert.
Sure.
You know, my son, he just won a championship in off-road racing last year. So he's won a couple of national championships along the way. We just haven't had the path to make it to the level you guys have. He raced with Connor and Joseph out at Newcastle in karts. So he's got a ton of talent. And what happens is, I remember specifically the day. It was probably the first year we were out racing karts. I said, we'll go to you run out of talent or I run out of money. Don't ever say that to your son. I had been in the motorsports industry for a while, and I realized that somebody with talent is fairly rare, you know, that they have the talent to go all the way. And, of course, as it turns out, he's at Stars of Karting, and he's, you know, leading the pack, you know, at Newcastle. And I think it was his second or third race at a national level. So he ventured on. But what happens as parents, when you see that talent is there, the last thing you want to do is be the person to hold them up. You want to do everything you possibly can because you recognize it as an adult. You recognize, like, holy crap, like, this is something really special here. So you'll do anything within your power.
I get it.
And put yourself in a really bad position. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I signed on a dotted line for crash damage on a $250,000 car thinking, I'll never pay for that. I don't know what the hell's going to happen there, you know?
Those are the things you have to do. It's crazy. But it's kind of fascinating how, you know, looking back now, almost every one of us, you know, who made it to IndyCar or something, and there's always people that came, you know, from a rich family or that had money that made it easier. But even with that position, it's always a really tricky journey. And I like to, you know, analyze what made all these guys special. How did they make it? And it's, you know, even if you compare to another sport when you have a huge volume of players or drivers, whatever, coming in, and then it's a really, you know, small percentage. Even in racing, there's a lot of them, but maybe less. But it's probably even harder to make it because of the whole budget deal.
Oh, no question, yeah.
Right, and the whole thing about the money is, you know, yeah, it's a different path, but you know what? You still got to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go out there and run around and be garbage. I mean, you're just it's not going to last.
You can't
won't
even be
there.
mediocre. I mean,
right.
I mean, at this level,
right.
I mean, what you guys do, and I think it becomes very clear at these ovals you're talking about, Texas or the 500, and I don't think anybody really, unless you're in this industry, you have no idea how narrow that track is at Indy. I stand up there every year, and it scares the hell out of me. I don't know how they make it through by themselves, much less at the end when they're going side by side through those turns. But the talent is just absolutely exceptional, and you see it really shine on those racetracks where you can't make a mistake. People are going to get hurt really bad.
Yeah, pressure every day.
I mean, even somebody as good as Sebastian, you know, he plugged it in right at our suite. And, you know, he thank God he was, you know, able to get recovered and everything. But, I mean, that's somebody that knows how it works. I mean, he's been around it a long time. And so it's, you know, it is crazy. And, you know, it's interesting. I love it. We didn't know anything. I mean, for the most part, didn't know much about you guys. I love the path. That's an awesome deal because, you know what, at the end of the day, they're like, oh, how'd they get here? Their dad pay their way? You know, and I mean, there's a lot of haters that pull that shit anyhow, and so what? It is what it is. But, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, Dixon's path was pretty cool. You know, he had a group of investors that really helped to get him. And I thought, man, that's a hell of an idea. You know, when he was talking about that the other day.
They created a business in his name. I mean, it was investors that created
a
business in his name,
Yeah, how about gambling on that? How big do you have to be to gamble on that program? We're going to gamble on this guy. He's going to do it. I mean,
But it's your personalities as well. I mean, it's your demeanor. It's what investors are watching. It's like, I want to be part of that guy's program. That young man is doing it right, and he's out here working hard. And I think the work ethic, that's what I really love about this industry, and it's why I wanted to bring my son up in this industry, is taking him to a go-kart track every weekend and watching everybody work hard. Everybody's busting their ass, man, and you learn at a young age. This deal isn't easy. If we want to win, we're going to have to work hard, and it just becomes a way of life. Hey, man, we really appreciate you guys taking time to come out here. Both of you reside here in the Indianapolis area now?
Yeah, I think, we both lived downtown last year, and then we both moved up to Carmel area this year, so, yeah.
It's because of the great weather here, right? Is that why you're here?
I still live I'm resided in Monaco still.
Can't understand why this or that.
I spend the winter there, but it's during the season you have to be here. Like it wouldn't make sense to go back and forth all the time.
Sure. Well, thanks a lot, guys. We wish you the best of luck in 2020. Congrats on your successful 2019. We hope you blend in nicely with such an incredibly talented team, all the championships and all the wins. You couldn't be in a better place to showcase your talents, and sure you guys will give us some good, exciting moments here, starting here in a couple weeks.
Looking forward to it.
Will do.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Skinny. Be sure to check out all the latest sun and optical eyewear at fatheads.com. Special thanks to our sponsorship partners at Elliott's Custom Trailers and Carts. This has been a production of Fathead Studios. Please remember to subscribe.